Let's begin,
This
please.
meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Welcome to the May 27th, 2021 board meeting. I am Greg Lippy, president of the board. Before we convene, I remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. The meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-2920. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating in the meeting must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website. As I facilitate the meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I ask the moderator to allot 2 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting and to ensure the board has the opportunity to complete its necessary business, including consideration of petitions as included on the meeting agenda. I appreciate everyone's understanding and patience as we navigate this meeting format. Before we get started, I will ask the moderator to provide general instructions. Moderator, please provide the instructions.
Good morning. At the direction of the board, when it comes time for public comment, for your reference, displayed on the screen will be instructions on how to request public comment. To request public comment, you will click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type, "I would like to make a public comment." As indicated, you will be provided 2 minutes and given a 10-second warning. All other means to request public comment, such as hand raises or asking questions directly into the Q&A panel, will be ignored. All requests for public comment will be addressed in the order they are received. Once your time has been reached, you will be muted and we will move on to the next request. With that, back to you.
Thank you, moderator. As indicated on the agenda, the board will convene in closed session after deliberating on all the open session items except adjournment. Due to technological limitations, adjournment will not be broadcast. Adjournment will immediately follow closed session and there will be no other items of business discussed. I will now take a roll call to establish a quorum. Members, as I call your name, please remember to open your line before speaking. I will begin with Sung Oh. Sung?
I'm here, Greg.
Thank you, Sung. Debbie Veal?
Here.
Thank you. Maria Serpa?
Here.
Thank you. Jig Patel?
Here.
Thank you. Albert Wong?
Hey, everybody. Albert's here.
Thank you, Albert. Shirley Kim? Shirley?
Hi, Greg, I'm here.
Hi. Okay, great. Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez?
Here.
Thank you, Ricardo. And of course, I'm here, so we have our quorum. With the quorum being established, well, wait a minute. Sorry, we have another agenda item here. Now that we've established.
Before you go to public comment, I was hoping to just make a general announcement.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is it okay if I?
Go ahead, please.
Greg and Albert, on behalf of the California State Board of Pharmacy, I want to recognize and say thank you to both yourself, Greg Lippy, and Dr. Albert Wong. I know the board members and our staff at the California Board of Pharmacy appreciate the contributions you guys have made to the board, as well as your dedicated service to California consumers and the profession of pharmacy. Albert, first I want to chat about you. You are a veteran member of our board, being appointed first in 2012 and then reappointed in 2016 by Governor Edmund G. Brown, Jr. Albert is a independent pharmacy owner in Oakland and earned his Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of California, San Francisco. Albert's experiences as a pharmacist and business owner have influenced the board's consideration of many important policies. He shares his extensive knowledge of pharmacy operations in discussions which weigh both consumer protection against the regulatory impacts on pharmacists. In addition, Albert has been a strong advocate for licensee education. He has supported training programs, publications, and other resources to assist professional development of pharmacists. Albert has served on a number of committees and faithfully attended the committee meetings as well as board meetings, and has been a great asset to this board. In addition, we have Greg Lippy, who's currently our president and the longest serving member of our board. He was first appointed in 2009 and then reappointed in 12 and 16 by Governor Edmund G. Brown. He's built a successful career as a certified public accountant. During his 12-year tenure here on the board, Greg has served both as a public representative and a leader on our board. He's been widely respected by the stakeholders as well as the board members for his knowledge and active engagement in policy matters, as well as his steady manner and dry sense of humor. Greg has served on and chaired numerous board committees. He's been, I believe, treasurer and was also elected vice president in 2018. And he also filled the vacancy as acting president and then was elected president in 2019 and again in 2020. He has steadfastly served the public and the board in navigating both operational and regulatory challenges. Most recently, Greg's leadership, the board has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has involved numerous waivers and tireless efforts as he's navigated both the broad and site-specific waivers, as well as ensured continued access to prescription medication. Both Greg and Albert have completed their term and actually have served us an extra year during this pandemic year in what's called their grace year. So they've really gone above and beyond for our California board. Greg and Albert, thank you for your long service to the California consumers and the pharmacy profession. It's been our pleasure to work, to be friends with, and to serve you as board members and as colleagues.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
A round of applause, but we can't really do that. So envision a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Greg, I would like to make a comment.
Yes, please.
Yeah, first of all, it's been a pleasure to work with all this board member at the Board of Pharmacy. It's a very great experience for me. I hope we accomplish something at the board. And also, I want to thank the board staff, Laurie, Debbie, and Annie. I mean, they've been great to helping us make life easier make a lot easier for us to serve at the board. And I want to really thank them, and I really want to express my appreciation. And I say, everybody take care and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Well, I was going to wait a little bit, but I guess I'll say it now. As I mentioned at our last meeting, today's meeting is my last meeting. I've been truly honored and proud to have served as a board member for the past 12 years and as president for the last 2. I greatly admire and respect the pharmacy profession and all that pharmacists do to protect and enhance the lives of all of us. During my service, I've had the opportunity to work with many outstanding people. My fellow board members, our outstanding staff, and everyone from the public who has provided valuable input to us to enable us to make informed and fair decisions. I will sincerely miss our wonderful EO, Ann Sodergren, and all of our great staff, with special mention to Debbie Damath and Susan Capello, who've been a great help to me as I've served as president. As I mentioned, I will miss you all. And now it's time to move on. And thank you again, Debbie Veal. Very much appreciated. And I hope to stay in touch.
Thank you, Greg and Albert.
Greg, I would like to make one more comment. Greg, when I first got into the board, I thought, those public members did not know what's going on out there, and I was wrong. Greg, you showed to me that you know both inside and out and both sides of the aisle, and I really appreciate it. I mean, you showed me that you did a great job leading us. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert, and I very much appreciate you and your friendship. Now, with a quorum being established, the board will now entertain any public comments for items not on the agenda. To facilitate this portion of the meeting, as I previously announced, the meeting moderator will open the lines for individuals to provide public comment. You are not required to identify yourself, but may do so. As we open the lines, I remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, if you would like to have any items placed on a future agenda, please let me know. Now it's time for public comments. Moderator, please open the lines.
At the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type, "I would like to make a comment." All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. Again, you will be given 2 minutes and provided a 10-second warning. With that, our first individual is an individual identified as Danny Martinez. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. Danny Martinez with the California Pharmacists Association. I just want to take a moment and echo what Debbie mentioned about both Albert and Greg. On behalf of the California Pharmacists Association, we want to thank both of you for your service on the board. I personally have very much enjoyed both of you serving in your capacity. I think both of you gentlemen are extremely fair and have been fair throughout this entire process. And as an advocate for our pharmacists, I can very much appreciate that. So I just wanted to give my thanks for both of you serving on the board in your role, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Danny.
That was
Thank you,
Danny.
Danny.
That was not Ricardo.
Thank you, Danny.
Next,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Danny. But thank you, Danny.
Next up, we have an individual identified as Sandra Martinez. Your microphone has been unmuted. Sandra, you are unmuted. At this time, we do not have any additional requests for public comment. I take that back. An individual identified as Robert Stein, your microphone has been unmuted.
Good morning. Again, I want to echo what Danny and Debbie have spoken about, both Greg and Albert. You both have been real advocates for the consumers of the state of California, and as a pharmacy law professor, I truly appreciate everything that you've done in the previous years that we've been knowing each other. So again, appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And I'll say thank you again to Danny because I screwed up the first time.
Thank you, Robert.
Go ahead.
Next, we have an individual identified as Lindsay Goldhorn. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Lindsay Goldhorn with the California Retailers Association and the National Association of Chain Drugstores. And I'm just going to add on, completely echo with what Board Member Veal and what Danny Martinez said. Thank you both, President Lippy and Board Member Wong, for your great work on the board. You both have shown your expertise and your dedication to patient safety. And I've only been working with the board for a couple years now, so in my short time, I've only known you and both of you, and I think you've done an excellent job, so I will definitely miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Our next public comment comes from an individual identified as Sandra Martinez. Your microphone has been unmuted. You are unmuted, Sandra. It appears we may be having some audio difficulties with Sandra Martinez. Sandra, if you were to go up to your top menu area and click on the audio and video, you'll see a call-in feature there. You're more than welcome to try and call in that way. At that, President Lippy, would you like me to allow her to make audio connection? Because we do not have any other
Yes.
requests.
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
This is the moderator checking back in with Sandra Martinez. Do we have an audio connection?
Well, if it doesn't work, what we'll do is if she eventually makes a connection at another point in the program, we'll let her speak at that time.
Sounds good. With that, we have no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do.
Feature has been closed.
Okay. Members having received public comment, I will now take a roll call to ask you if you'd like to include any item on a future agenda. Obviously, nobody raised anything at public comment, but if there's something that you would like to add, just let me know. I'll start with Debbie Veal. Debbie, is there anything you would like to put on a future agenda?
No, thank you.
Okay, Maria Serpa.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Greg, I would like to, I don't know how we would go about it, but I would like to, I believe back when we were actually meeting in person, we were able to give you a plaque or some sort of appreciation for all you've done. So I'm hoping that we could make that happen for you and all the Albert are also all the past board members that has served who haven't maybe been able to receive this. So I don't know if there's some way, but I really like to give some sort of plaque to honor all your years of service.
Song, this is Debbie. Actually, that is in the works. We do
Okay.
normally give some sort of recognition to board presidents as they step down, and that is in the works.
That sounds good.
Thank you, Sung. Jig Patel, is there anything that you would like to put on a future agenda?
No, I don't, but I wanted to thank you and Albert for your service to the board and for all the contributions. So thank you.
Thank you, Jig.
Okay.
Albert, anything that you would like to put on a future agenda?
No, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Shirley?
Nothing to add on future agendas, but
Okay.
thank you both for your leadership and your friendship on this board.
Thank you, Shirley. Ricardo, is there anything you would like to? What?
Just wanted to echo the same thing about the
Oh.
plaques. That would be a great thing to do. I mean, we've done it in the past, and definitely yourself and past directors or directors definitely deserve the recognition. I think you've done a great job, Greg. I think in the beginning, I wasn't too sure about being a public member, being director, or how that would work out. But you've proven that it can be done flawlessly. You did a great job. Just wanted to point that out. And then also, Albert, thank you for your friendship. Also, you've done a great job.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you very much.
Ricardo, thank you.
Okay, since there's nothing to be added for a future agenda, we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is discussion and consideration of request to waive pharmacy law provisions consistent with Authority of Business and Profession Code Section 4062. Included in the meeting materials for our consideration today are 2 recommendations from staff to extend temporary permits beyond the current 180-day time frame authorized in the law. The first such waiver is to allow for the extension of the non-resident third-party logistics provider license issued to McKesson Medical Surgical, Inc., license number NPL 1274. As included in the meeting materials, approval of this waiver will allow this facility to continue to distribute the COVID vaccines. As indicated on the slide, staff recommended extension of the non-resident 3PL license until January 1, 2022, or until such time as either McKesson Medical Surgical, Inc. obtains appropriate licensure in the resident state, or until changes in California law are secured, whichever occurs first. There's also a second one to another McKesson facility, and I think we can handle them both at the same time. The other one is under license NPL 1277, and it would also be extended until January 1, 2022. Members, do you have any comments regarding the staff recommendation, which is to extend?
This is song. I don't have comments. I can make a motion to approve
Very good.
the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Sung. Do we have a second?
Second it.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, so
And just to be clear, that's to extend both of them, not just
both of
one
them,
individual.
correct.
Yeah.
Both of them. Okay, so we know we have the motion and a second. Now it's time for anybody want to make any comments before I go to public comment? Okay, let's go to public comment. Moderator, please open the lines.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to make a public comment, please follow the instructions currently being displayed on your screen. You will be provided 2 minutes and given your 10-second warning. With that, I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. We have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please.
Feature has been closed.
Okay, with a motion and a second, it's time to take a vote. And that would be to extend both of these until January 1, 2022. I will begin with Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Kam?
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong? Thank you. Jig Patel?
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Oh?
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa?
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. Motion passes. Okay. Next is agenda item 4, and that's discussion and consideration of board-approved regulation, Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 1717.5, related to automatic refill programs to address comments by the Office of Administrative Law. The next item on the agenda for consideration is staff recommended changes to the board's regulation related to automatic refill programs. I draw your attention to the meeting materials that include a cover memo providing a brief history of the rulemaking and information regarding why this rulemaking has returned to the board for consideration. Specifically, the Office of Administrative Law, through its review, has requested that the board clarify its policy decisions more clearly in the text of the regulation itself. The specific changes requested by OAL are detailed in the meeting materials. The meeting materials also provide excerpts from the October 2020 meeting where the board voted as part of its motion memorializing board's policy. The OAL has requested the board to do the following. to further define the words each prescription in subsection A2, to memorialize the board's policy regarding the need for annual consent, and to ensure the proposal consistently uses the terms prescription and prescription medication throughout the text. Members, the proposed modified text to comply with the OAL request is provided in the meeting materials. There were 2 rounds of modified changes. The first round of modified changes to the proposed regulation text are shown by double strike through for deleted language and double underline for added language. The second round of modified changes are shown by italicized double strike throughs for deleted language and italicized double underline for added language. Based on our action today, a 15-day comment period will be initiated to provide stakeholders with the opportunity to provide comments on the proposed revisions. It is important to note that the scope of the comments will be limited to just the modified text we vote to pursue today. I believe the board must act to address the comments provided by the Office of Administrative Law, or the regulation will not be approved. Having summarized the information in the meeting materials, I will now open the discussion to members. The slide displayed and the meeting materials include possible motion language. I would entertain a motion as part of member comments should you believe such action is appropriate. Okay, I will call roll to get your comments at this point. So I'll start with Maria Serpa.
Thank you, Mr. Lippy. I know we've had significant discussion on this issue over probably more than a year, and appreciate that the OAL is assisting us to provide language that is legally correct. So I'd like to propose the amendment as displayed on the screen.
Thank you, Maria.
Or propose the motion, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'll go to Debbie Veal next. Do you want to do a second while you're speaking? Debbie? Or not?
I'm sorry. I was just kind of looking through the information. No, I don't want to do a second yet. I kind of want to hear comments first.
Okay.
Greg, I had a comment.
Yes.
It's Jim.
Well, okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Looking at the material in section A, number 2 of the proposed regulation, it says that the patient or patient's agent shall enroll by written, online, or electronic informed consent to participate in the program for each new prescription wherein there is a change in prescription medication, strength, dosage form, prescriber, or directions for use. I feel that the prescriber should be deleted from that sentence because I don't think that change of prescriber is going to do anything with automatic refills as far as the drug, the strength, the directions are not being affected. Prescriber change should not require another consent. I don't think that that's going to harm consumers in any way, and it's a redundant step for pharmacies to go through.
Okay,
I would like
thank
to
you.
make a motion to remove prescriber from that.
Okay, we have a motion already made. So what we have to do now is I have to see if there's a second to that motion. And if there is, or if the person who made the motion wants to amend their motion.
So, Greg, this is Maria.
Yes.
I'm okay with removing the motion from the table, but I think perhaps office staff or yourself could explain that what's the next steps and timeline that would be changed because we're making changes other than OAL. What would that do? So
Right.
would that postpone this down the path to having a traditional response, or is it still to the 15 days?
Yeah, let's ask Eileen to respond to that, our counsel. Eileen?
Hi, President Lippy. This is Eileen. I was checking. Danny Rogers is the counsel for our reg unit, and I think she's down in the participants. Danny, are you available to answer that? If not, I can.
Good morning, Eileen. I'd be pleased to answer that. Good morning, board members. I'm Danny Rogers,
you.
Regulations Counsel from Department of Consumer Affairs.
Mhm.
I've been working with the board on these edits as requested by OAL. Insofar as removing prescriber, there's a reason why we propose to insert that term into the modified text. And that is because it is consistent with current regulation at Title 16, Section 1717 B4, which, as relevant here, that section states that certain things have to be maintained for each prescription, and it defines a new prescription needing to be created if there is a change in the drug, strength, prescriber, or directions for use. So that's where that language was gleaned from, and it was because we wanted the things that typify a new prescription to include prescriber just as it does in current regulation. And we have, just for your reference, we have run the proposed text by the Office of Administrative Law, and they did state that it was acceptable to meet their concerns. And so the only concern I would have about removing prescriber at this time is that should the removal of that term change OAL's opinion as to the acceptability of the text, it could mean that we would have to come back and have a further meeting to approve another modification. So that's the downside of removing that. I can't say for certain whether OAL would see that as a change that would affect their approval. However, if we remove it at this point and it is somehow concerning to OAL, they could state that they want the term in there for clarity, and then we would have to have a further board meeting. I defer to Ann if she'd like to offer any more comments on that.
Understood. Thank you very much, Danny. Okay, let's go. Jig, are you satisfied with that? Do you want to pursue?
Yeah, my only concern was that a consumer adherence out there is a big challenge. Folks taking their medications on time, right? And that's why this tool has been used by various pharmacies to make sure that there are reminders sent, the prescriptions are filled, and it's almost making them come and pick it up and take the meds so that they could be healthy. Prescribers often change because of change in health plan or anything, and the medications, the dosage, the directions would remain the same. If they have to be re-enrolled and the ball gets dropped and they don't get re-enrolled for one reason or the other, at the pharmacy level, we are subjecting consumers to not be adherent, and it can cause health issues. So I felt that that could create a hurdle, and it could have a negative impact on consumers, and that's why I wanted that to be removed. So patient care, the continuation of patient care is there.
Okay, so, but the point is, do you want to pursue that at this point, given what was
Yes.
said? You do, okay. So Maria has stated she would withdraw her motion. So you have made your motion. And do we have a second to your motion?
I'll second Jig's motion. This is Debbie.
Okay. Okay, so we have a different motion on the floor now.
And I agree 100% with what Jig just said. And I think sometimes we have to also look at what's logical, and I totally understand what the attorney from DCA provided to us. And, what a definition of a new prescription is as far as, giving it a new prescription number. But logically, this is a variation, and I agree 100% with, once again, with what Jig said, that having the prescriber be a barrier to continuing the refill, the automatic refill program, I think would be a disservice to the public.
Yeah, well, definitely, we don't want to do anything that throws a hurdle in
A
the ability
clarification,
of people to get their medication. So,
clarification, please.
yes,
Does Jig's motion include all the other OAL suggested changes in addition to his removal?
let's ask him. Jim?
Yes,
It does.
yes.
Okay. So it includes all the
it also
changes.
includes the delegation to the executive officer.
Jig?
That would be correct, yes. And to remove prescriber. Yeah, that would be the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Your motion is this possible amendment language that we're looking at with the specific change in removing prescriber in that one section. Jig?
Yes.
That's what he said. Yes. Okay. So we have the motion, we have the second. Now I'm going to go through again the rest of the roll call to see if anybody has any comments.
Yes. One real question,
Yes.
Eileen, does that change if it's a 15-day comment period, or is that to be determined? I mean, do we need to change that piece of the motion?
Does that go to a 45-day? Danny, would that go to 45 days?
So if we're just eliminating prescriber, it would still be a 15-day change.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, comments by Albert Wong.
Well, I don't know if this related to this or not, but I have heard that some of those automatic refill organization, they refill without getting permission from the doctor on the additional refills. So I just want to make sure those automatic refill in the future is when, just like normally we operate in the pharmacy, when there's no refill remaining, we send a request to a doctor for authorization to continue the refill the prescription. But I heard that there are organizations refill without the doctor's knowledge. So I want to make sure that in the future, when you guys deal with this automation, make sure that when they run our refill, they have to get authorization from the doctor.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you, Albert. Okay, Sung, do you have a comment?
I just have a couple comments first. I do actually agree with Jig on the prescriber. I think that a lot of times the prescriptions, the doctor's on vacation and the pharmacy needs to get a refill, and some other prescriber sometimes steps in to prescribe medications. And I would say 9 out of 10 times it really is not a significant change. So I'm glad to we have that motion. Secondly, I just wanted to clarify with Danny Rogers about the prescriptions. Just want to clarify, to change the language to say refill prescriptions, we can definitely include things that are not a medication, right? Like diabetic test strips and maybe an over-the-counter medications. Is that the purpose of changing it to prescriptions, correct?
I'm sorry, you went in and out there for a moment. What subdivision are you referring to?
Just to changing the language to prescriptions instead of from prescription medications.
I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Go ahead. No, was a concern was just that is prescriptions would refer to everything that a pharmacy receives a prescription for, correct?
That's my understanding. The purpose in our changing prescription to prescription medication or vice versa was to clarify when we were referring to the piece of paper versus the drug itself.
Right.
Okay. I am good with it. Yep. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you, Sung. Okay, Shirley Kim, do you have any comments related?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez, do you have any comments related to this?
I support the new motion and no comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, in that case, we have a motion, we have a second. It's time to go for public comment. Moderator, please open the lines.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment for your reference being displayed on your screen are instructions. You will be provided 2 minutes and given a 10-second warning. With that, we do have an individual identified as Lindsay Gollahorn. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you very much. Good morning again, President Lippy and board members. Thank you and board staff for all of your work now, last year and before on these regulations. I know it's been a long process and we really appreciate the opportunity to be involved. We absolutely agree with board member Patel's motion to strike the term prescriber. We think it makes sense. I won't rehash everything. I just want to echo what board member Patel, Veal and others have stated. We think that requiring patients to provide consent just based on a change in the prescriber doesn't add any additional patient protection. And there are a lot of reasons why a prescriber might change, like board member O stated, maybe they're on vacation and someone else is filling in. So we think this is a common sense, simple change. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Next, we have an individual identified as Robert Stein. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Good morning, board. I definitely support Member Patel's amendment. That definitely makes sense. But I just want to remind the board as to why this regulation is even necessary in the first place. It was based on problems that have been documented in the press with certain pharmacies abusing automatic refills and lots of consumer complaints. So I look forward to this getting through a 15-day comment period and hopefully becoming law as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Next, we have an individual identified as Mark Johnston. Your microphone has been unmuted.
Thank you. My name is Mark Johnston, and I'm currently a Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs for CVS Health. Many board members know me from my in-person attendance at numerous board meetings and committee meetings and being elected to NEBP's Executive Committee, a position I held while serving as the Executive Director for the Idaho Board of Pharmacy. I look forward to in-person meetings of the California Board, rekindling relationships, and meeting the newer board members. I've provided the board several independent studies over the 5-year time period during which this rule has been developed, proving that auto refill programs increase public safety by increasing adherence to medication. These rules include many components that appear to exist merely to discourage the use of auto refill programs based on anecdotes, many of which are decades old when auto refill programs were in their infancy. Roughly half of you are new to the board since this rule was initiated, and as we have heard earlier today, we'll have an additional 2 new board members soon. I urge you to return this to committee so that this new board can make their own decision instead of pushing this old, poorly worded effort across the finish line. I truly believe this will impact public safety negatively, as I have voiced in detail in the past. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to commenting in writing again. And lastly, a big thank you to Greg and Albert for your service. I truly understand the sacrifices that this volunteerism involves, and I admire your commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
With that, there are no additional requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Okay, with a motion and a second, time to take a vote. And I will begin with Jig Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Sung Ho.
Yes.
Thank you. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes. Motion passes. Now we're at the point where, let's see, we're going to be going to petition hearings. So I'm going to, but before we do that, I think we should take a short break. So let's take a break for 10 minutes and return. Yeah, hi, Albert. We're going to go to video for the petitioner's portion. So looks like our break's over, so I'm going to call for a roll call at this point. I'll start with Ricardo Sanchez. Are you here? Ricardo? Not yet. Shirley Kim? Shirley? Okay, not back yet. Albert, I know you're here, but say hi anyway. Albert?
This is Ricardo. I'm here, just to let you know.
Oh, thank you, Ricardo. Albert? I just heard him. All right, I'll come back.
I'm here, Greg. I'm here, Greg.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and Shirley?
I'm here.
I see you now. Thank you. Okay, Jig Patel? Jig? Not back yet?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And we're going on video for those who aren't yet here or aren't yet using their video. Sang-O?
I'm here. I'm hoping that the board can send us some nice background pictures so we don't have all same silly background from WebEx.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea. But you can create your own if you want. Maria Serpa?
Here, thank you.
Thank you. And Debbie Veal?
I'm here. Hi.
Hi. Are you? I don't see your video, but maybe it's because
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm here too. So let's get going. It's time for me to turn the meeting over to the administrative law judge. Our judge is Jonathan Liu. Judge, are you here?
I am. Good morning, board members. Good morning, President Lippy. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see it too now.
Very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Which one would you like to start first?
So let me see first if Ms. Jarvis is here.
Okay.
And
Here, Judge Liu, can you see me?
I can if I scroll over, I believe. There you are. Thank you. And just for my own information, Ms. Moderator, will petitioners also have opportunity to go on video?
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. And before we get underway, President Lippy and Dr. Wong, let me just say on behalf of myself and the number of judges over the years that have had an opportunity to sit with the board, just congratulations and our best wishes as you continue in whatever endeavors you're doing. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Wong, I happened to be in Oakland, Chinatown yesterday, and your good work in that part of the city is, I'm sure, appreciated as well. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So moving on to the hearings, we have 4 petitions for reinstatement. Excuse me, 4 petitions for early termination of probation. They're listed in a particular order. I see that at least one party is represented by counsel. Ms. Jarvis, I'm looking to you for guidance on if there's any good reason to change the order.
There is only one party represented, that is Central Drugs and Nayan Patel. They are currently, according to the agenda, in the last position, so they would go 4th. I do see that Ms. El Sayed, or Dr. El Sayed, I'm not sure, I apologize, is already on here. She has already been promoted to a panelist and is, I can see her on my screen. So
Okay.
I will leave it up to you and to the board if you want to change the order in order to take the represented party first. But that's where we are at this time.
Well, Judge Liu, I typically try to take represented people first due to the cost, but it's up to you.
I agree. I also think there's value in having non-represented individuals have the benefit of hearing a hearing where representation is present on both sides. So, Ms. Said, I'm going to ask, please, that you go second, and I think you will benefit from from doing that in that order. So could we have
Check with the moderator to make sure that Mr. Patel and his counsel are present. They may have
Thank you.
counted on going last. So.
This is the moderator. I do see that Nayan Patel is available, and I'm looking for his attorney. I don't know if they are in the same room. Mr. Patel, is your representative with you, or are they on a different?
They are on a different place.
I see them. They've both been promoted.
I missed that. They are both here?
Yes,
They
that's
are,
what
and
they
they've both
said.
been, yes, and they've both been promoted to panelists.
Great, thank you very much. All right, I've noted that we have a full quorum. I want to make some comments for the benefit of the petitioners in this case and other cases to follow. Board members by now have received copies of your petition as well as attachments and have had opportunity to review it and are familiar with the history of this case. The best use of your time this morning is to provide any supplemental information, any information that you would like to highlight before the board, and of course being available to answer board questions. That will all be taken into consideration as the board deliberates later this afternoon. They will make a decision today. A decision will typically issue within 2 weeks' time. I'm going to ask in each case for Ms. Christina Jarvis. Ms. Jarvis is the Deputy Attorney General representing the Office of the Attorney General in each case to go first. She will offer the petition and any other relevant documents for consideration for the board. It will be marked and entered into evidence, and she will also then give a summary of the board, of the case up till now. After which point, it will be the petitioner's opportunity to testify. I will administer an oath. The testimony will be, in the first case, pursuant to questioning by counsel. And following that, Ms. Jarvis will have opportunity to question. And then I'm going to ask each individual board member to ask their questions. We'll go back and forth until all that is done. The parties may then make a brief closing statement. The matter will then be submitted and we'll move forward to the next case. So with that being said, let's, moderator, we have an electronic recording, correct? We don't have a court reporter?
This is the moderator, that is correct.
Okay. So at this time, let's go on the record. And we are appearing in the matter of a petition for early termination. The petitioner is Nayan Patel. He is associated with AURO Pharmacies. He has registered pharmacist number 48867, and the pharmacy is 49146. This is the board's case number 5865, Office of Administrative Hearings number 2021-050598. This matter is set for hearing before the full Board of Pharmacy. We do have a quorum. Representing the Department of Justice is Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. Present also is Mr. Nayan Patel. He is represented by, and I'm going to ask you to forgive me because I know I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, Ivan Brzalka. And Mr. Brzalka, are you on video? Let me just look really quickly.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
How do we pronounce your name?
Petrzelka.
Petrzelka, thank you very much.
It was pretty close.
So as I had indicated when we were off the record, I'm going to ask Ms. Jarvis to go first. Ms. Jarvis, would you provide us, please, with a summary of this case?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Good morning. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. This matter arose through the filing of an accusation, after which a hearing was held and a proposed decision rendered by an administrative law judge. The board in 2017 rejected that decision, received written argument, and issued a decision after rejection, which became effective on September 3rd, 2018. Both petitioners' pharmacy and personal licenses were revoked, with the revocations stayed for a 5-year period of probation with certain specified terms and conditions of probation. Just one note on the parties here. Petitioner Patel was is the 33% owner, also the president of the company, and was the pharmacist in charge of Central Drugs and RO Pharmacy. Now, RO Pharmacy is the license holder, and then Central Drugs is the DBA. So I will generally refer to Central Drugs as Central Drugs rather than RO Pharmacy, but they are essentially, for our purposes here today, interchangeable. Also, when I speak of actions taken by either Petitioner Patel or the pharmacy, the actions can be assumed to either have been taken by Patel on behalf of the pharmacy or by other employees of the pharmacy on behalf of the pharmacy, as supervised and approved by Petitioner Patel. So the underlying facts of the matter are that in 2015, the board was notified that Central Drugs was practicing pharmacy in the state of Florida as an unregistered sterile compounding outsourcing facility in violation of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, Section 503B. Central Drugs is located here in California in La Habra. During the board's investigation, inspectors observed what appeared to be a pharmacy technician compounding sterile drug products. However, upon further inquiry, the technician was not licensed in the state of California. Petitioner allowed this unlicensed individual to compound a total of 2,327,484 milliliters of sterile compounded drug products without being licensed by the board. Petitioner also failed to document end product testing for sterility and for pyrogens for batch-produced sterile injectable drug products compounded from one or more sterile ingredients. Petitioner failed to quarantine these products until end product testing confirmed sterility and the acceptable levels of pyrogens. Petitioners failed to have appropriate labels on some drug products because the products failed to contain directions for use and instead simply stated, quote, bring to physician's office for administration. Now, I rarely reference matters in aggravation that were listed in the accusations in these petition hearings. However, in this case, they are directly relevant. Petitioners had each been issued 2 prior citations for acting as a wholesaler without a license, acting as a manufacturer without a license, dispensing a prescription in a container that did not meet federal law and was incorrectly labeled, dispensing a prescription to a person outside of the state without having a license in the other state, and in 2 of those citations, the pharmacy paid a fine of $100,000, and Petitioner Patel ultimately paid a modified citation fine of $75,000. Yet, even after these citations were issued and those high fines were enacted, the petitioner still did not come into compliance. However, during the accusation proceeding and even prior to being placed on probation, petitioner voluntarily ceased sterile compounding and canceled its sterile compounding license. At this time, both petitioners are 100% compliant with their probation terms and have completed enough time on probation to be eligible to bring this petition before the board. In support of the petition, Petitioner Patel has provided CE certificates totaling 117 hours from January of 2019 through March 2021. Petitioner also provided 10 letters of recommendation, 6 of which were able to be verified by board staff. For all of the letters that were verified, the writers stated that they knew of the accusation and petitioner's actions in being disciplined, as well as petitioner's activities since the discipline was imposed. Additionally, letter writers made statements such as that petitioner is humble, selfless, committed to improving the well-being of his patients, community, and society, has learned from past mistakes, and taken not just corrective action, but also now exceeds legal standards. that he is a caring partner to the community and trustworthy. And then finally, with his petition, the petitioner provided a list of correctional actions taken by him and the pharmacy. At this time, I'd like to identify Exhibit 1 as all of the documents described above as the petition packet, which also includes the underlying decision and order, and a note on that for the court. The underlying decision and order actually appears in the packet twice. It was provided by petitioner with the petition packet, but then we also provide the certified record of the same with the petition packet. So it is the same decision, it just is in there twice. This packet also includes the notice of hearing or the letter to the petitioner, providing information about the hearing here today, the consent for electronic recording, and the memorandum to the board members. At this time, I'd like to ask that all of these documents collectively be admitted as Exhibit 1. And Your Honor, I believe you are muted.
It is so marked. Any objection to Exhibit 1 coming in?
And Mr. Petrozelka, you are also muted.
Any objection?
Apologies. I was under the assumption that my microphone was unmuted. No, Your Honor, I have no objection to Exhibit 1. I would, however, like to clarify that we've also submitted additional exhibits, rather amendments to 2 exhibits, and that was Exhibit D and Exhibit G, due to the fact that the petition has been filed several months ago before it was put on the docket, and the amendments to Exhibit D and Exhibit G respectively contained additional evidence of continuing mitigation and rehabilitation efforts put forth by Mr. Patel and his team. And Ms. Jarvis, I don't know whether you have included that in your Exhibit 1.
I did. Well, so I did include that in the statement that I just provided. The addendums that you provided were uploaded separately to OAH, but I would ask for them to be included as Exhibit 1.
Okay, they will be included. Thank you. Exhibit 1 is in evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Then at this time, I would like to turn the floor over to petitioner and his counsel.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jarvis. And counsel, I'm going to first swear in Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel, would you raise your right hand, please? And do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Petrozelka.
Good morning, Your Honor, and honorable members of the board. I would like to, on behalf of Mr. Patel, thank you for the opportunity to present the petitions for early termination of probation for both Mr. Patel and Central Drugs. We understand that these petitions are granted sparingly, and that the fact that Mr. Patel has been compliant with the terms of his probation in and of itself is not sufficient to grant such petition. And we acknowledge the board's mandate of public protection, and we also understand the fact that when there are competing interests at stake, public protection must prevail. We're not here today with in a position of demanding action, but we are here merely with a humble request for reprieve in light of the exceptional rehabilitation efforts put forth by Mr. Patel and his team. As Ms. Jarvis stated in her opening statements, both licenses have been placed on probation effective September 3, 2018. The principal causes for discipline were the absence of documentation of end product testing and unlicensed personnel. I would, however, take exception to Ms. Jarvis' original statement that there were 3 causes for discipline. If the decision of the administrative law judge in that case had found that the board failed to establish the last cause for discipline dealing with improperly labeled drugs. But we understand that the purpose of this hearing is not to relitigate the matters of the past, and we certainly do not intend to do so. we would like to present the reasons for which we believe the board should grant this petition. Of course, Mr. Patel and his pharmacy have been in full compliance with the terms and conditions of their probation, as Mr. Jarvis stated, and this could also be ascertained from the statements of the board inspector that would be available to the board for review. But the principal reason for granting this petition, in our humble opinion, is the exemplary and continuous effort of Mr. Patel and his entire team from the time the deficiencies were discovered up until present time, and he certainly intends to continue it in the future. So this was not some quickly slapped together effort a month before filing a petition. As the comprehensive packet that we've submitted along with the petition can establish, this has been a continuous effort that began way before the disciplinary action had even been initiated by the board. We also believe that Mr. Patel and his team went above and beyond mere compliance, as Mr. Patel will testify to, particularly in the area of continuous training and enhancement of the various processes that are being used by the pharmacy, frequency of testing of the end product, significant amount of refresher courses that Mr. Patel had himself undertaken specifically in the area of pharmaceutical compounding, as well as extensive continuous education courses. Mr. Patel altogether had undertaken over 130 hours of continuing education since the time the probation became effective, which is approximately 4 times the amount that is required from a pharmacist to maintain his licensure. Mr. Patel will also testify to his involvement in the community. He's not only a dedicated pharmacist, but he's also an educator who shares his knowledge and expertise in compounding practices with pharmacy students and other healthcare professionals to make sure that the drugs compounded in California and for California residents are safe and in full compliance with the applicable laws and regulations. The events that gave rise to this disciplinary action by the board had occurred more than 5 years ago, and since then, Mr. Patel had put forth a significant, and I would say extraordinary amount of rehabilitation efforts, as will be seen from the packet we submitted and his testimony that will follow. And lastly, I believe that the evidence and testimony will establish that Mr. Patel and his pharmacy at this point of time do not pose any risk to the public, and that they can practice without the additional scrutiny imposed by the terms and conditions of the probation order. And therefore, we believe that early termination of both probations for Mr. Patel and his pharmacy are consistent with the public interest. And at this time, I would like to call Mr. Patel to testify on his behalf.
Please proceed. You've already been sworn in.
Mr. Patel, thank you for joining us today. I would, Your Honor, if I may, as a preliminary matter, I would like to conduct a direct examination in form of sort of a hybrid of a semi-narrative and question, if that's acceptable to you.
That's acceptable.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Patel, how long have you been involved in compounding and acting as a compounding pharmacist?
I've been a pharmacist for 25 years at this point, but I've been involved in compounding since I was in pharmacy school back in 1992. I have been involved in compounding personally myself since 1999, heavily in not just learning about compounding, but also how to make compounding practice better for us.
Okay. So you've been compounding pharmacist for a little over 25 years. And in those 25 years of your practice, have you ever had any incidents where a patient would be harmed in any way by a product that you compounded?
No, we have not made any medication at this point that, to my knowledge, that has caused any adverse events.
Have you ever had any complaints related to quality of the products that you compounded?
No. In fact, what we hear from physicians all the time is people use us because of our quality products that we make.
What is your current position with RO pharmacies or central drugs?
Currently, I'm the president and CEO of the organization. I do work as a staff pharmacist over there. Pretty much my role in the company at this point is on consultations, clinical research, and advocating drug therapies to proper drug therapies to physicians so they can better take care of their patients.
And now, during the time that was relevant to this disciplinary action, you were acting as the pharmacist in charge of central drugs. Are you currently acting as the PIC or pharmacist in charge of any pharmacy?
No, I have not been the PIC since 2015.
Do you intend to go back to the position of PIC?
At this point, I don't see a need for me to be the PIC. I do have a great support team that I believe that are quite more capable in running the operations than I am.
Now, the disciplinary action was based on conduct that was pretty significant in terms of compliance with the law. What was your initial reaction when you found out that your pharmacy had been non-compliant in such a manner?
Oh, my first thought was, how do you allow such deficiencies to happen at my pharmacy? Clearly, we have always put the patient safety first. Quality of medications is our utmost priority, and I couldn't believe that we had such deficiency to begin with. Clearly, there was an error that we had to overcome, and immediately we started revising processes, putting some systems in place, evaluate systems that we have currently that was functioning the whole pharmacy practice. And I was fortunate enough to have a team of team members that are involved with me, and we have a culture of ongoing quality improvements. And I'm fortunate to have a team members to allow me to do that. So as soon as we found deficiency, the whole team was behind me and figured out, okay, how can we do this better than what we had before?
Okay. Now you mentioned some of the changes that you started implementing, immediately after you've learned of these deficiencies. Could you elaborate on these changes a little bit so the board members have a better understanding what it involved?
Sure. The first thing, the most important part that we recognized is we had SOPs that were governing all our practice of the pharmacy. Even though the SOP may be intact, there were still lapses because of training was not adequately provided, and or the training was not being observed on an ongoing basis. So what first thing we did was we hired a compliance officer. We wanted to make sure that not just that we are compliant in certain part of the practice, but all parts of the pharmacy practice. That was a big step for us to make sure that the compliance officer was also trained properly. So we sent the compliance officer for USP training. We wanted to make sure that that compliance officer was also attending all board meetings to understand, to make sure that we stay on top of not just the current regulations, but all the regulations that are coming forward in front of us from now till the future. We went forward and we changed our HR manager because that we thought that we needed an HR manager that was going to be sufficient for us to make sure that we stay compliance with licensing issues. That wasn't enough for us, and eventually we hired a PEO, which is a professional employer organization, to make sure that not just that we stay compliant with our employees, but that they have somebody to talk to get themselves trained. Their concerns are heard, so they're not relying on me and my management team only. They have an HR personnel to take care of their needs. Above and beyond that, we implemented few programs. Of course, the whole list of things has been listed in the Exhibit D. I'm assuming that everything is in there to this date. But the few things that we want to highlight is also about the training programs that we set up. Annual SOP review was required, but wasn't enough for us. We wanted to make sure our team have trained, so all team members are trained on USP 795 and USP 800 annually. And again, we don't do sterile compounding anymore, but we want to make sure that the learnings we had from the previous deficiencies, we want to incorporate those into our current practice. We review our master formulations every year. We review our annual certification of a gowning. That is so important for my safety of my people that work in these labs. And we want to make sure the lab supervisors are also qualified to do so things. So anyways, our main focus has always been around training. And the last thing is, of course, testing. The testing was something that we wanted to make sure that we stay ahead of the game. So as the annual testing is required by the Board of Pharmacy, we adopted monthly testings for all our products, whatever we can do on randomized basis. And we made sure that every staff member, pharmacists and technicians included, that their product has been tested at least once a quarter. So.
Okay, well, thank you. And in terms of the training for your staff, have you also undertaken some training for yourself in form of refresher courses or in addition to your CEs? Have you undergone some specialized training on compounding?
On the compounding, I have attended a couple of meetings, including I went to FDA's meeting to Maryland just to make sure that if we are doing sterile compounding at that point, that I want to be on top of what FDA wants, on top of what the Board of Pharmacy is requiring as well. So I'm always in front of making sure that not just my team is trained, but as a leader, I'm also aware of what's happening within the industry, so that I'm able to direct them in the right in the right manner.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned that you're no longer doing sterile compounding at Central Drugs. What is your current area of practice? Could you outline that for us?
Absolutely. So we don't do sterile compounding, but we do practice non-sterile compounding and retail pharmacy. We do a little bit specialized care, specialty medications, and we do a lot of vaccinations.
Okay. Have you done any COVID-19 vaccinations?
Yes, we have.
Would you have a general idea how many doses you may have administered of COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't know. We got the Johnson & Johnson vaccines, and we started giving the vaccinations, and immediately was halted because of the scares that FDA put out. And then after that, the Johnson & Johnson vaccines have the number of people that are getting vaccinated has decreased since then.
Okay. So some of the one of the causes for discipline that is that gave rise to the probation was related to end product testing, and that was related to sterile compounding, which my understanding is that you no longer do. But you earlier mentioned about extensive program of end product testing for non-sterile products. Could you Could you tell us a little bit more about the reasons for that? Why are you doing it monthly instead of annually as you're required to?
I believe that it putting an arbitrary number of yearly testing may not be sufficient for pharmacy like mine that want to be they want to set an example for the industry that once a year may not be enough for all of us. If we want to stay ahead of the game and ensure public safety, we ought to test products more often. And it should be dependent on what your volume looks like. So we decided to do monthly testing, more than normal, and the reason for that is because we want to make sure that my staff doesn't get complacent, because as we know, if you're not watching them on an ongoing basis, they become complacent. And testing is one of those things. Is it's random. They don't know who's getting tested, what month they're going to get tested, what products they make are going to get tested. So they have to be on top of the game at all the times. So that was the reason we did that. The other issue is we were making some products with a very low therapeutic index, including thyroid medications. So what we did, we implemented a new program for us is that we started testing the raw materials that came in for the thyroid medication to make sure that before it goes into my compounded products, is the raw materials good enough for us? Since it's a very low therapeutic index, we wanted to make sure the water content was not too much. Otherwise, it will a small variation in the water content can change the formulations completely and can be out of spec. So we do every single raw material for thyroid medications tested before it gets released to the general public.
Okay. And are you doing this because you're on probation, or are you doing this for other reasons?
We have always done testings more than what is required. Again, the probation was something that highlighted to me is that I cannot be doing other testings to a point and not do the required ones to begin with. So it made me realize that at the bare minimum, we had to do the required ones first, and then you can start to do above and beyond. So thyroid medications, we've been compounding since 2004 or 5, I believe. And since that time, we have been one of the major players of making these products because it is a very low therapeutic index product, and the requirements are so strict on this product that we have to make sure that we test everything before we release the products.
Okay, thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about your community service? Any activities where that you personally are engaged in, or your team members are engaged in, that would promote the public safety and the practice of pharmacy?
We have always been very much involved within the community. One of my staff members sits on the board of the Chamber of Commerce as well until about a year and a half ago. We have been involved with the emergency preparedness. Anytime there's a city event that requires a healthcare provider to be on that team for the city, before calling the physicians, they call the pharmacists first. And I've been very privileged to join the team at the city of La Habra for all their preparedness over the years. Besides that, we are in a lower socioeconomic status area of La Habra, where we have a lot of families that are not able to afford proper nutrition. Since 2011, we have been providing free vitamins to kids under the age of 12 for now coming to 10 years now. So we've been doing that for a long periods of time. Besides that, medication, people take a lot of medication. They don't understand what they're taking. So we have an open format at the pharmacy that every week we have brown bag events that people bring all the meds in the bags, and they will have a chance to sit down with a pharmacist/nutritionist and basically discuss what they're taking and see if there is any duplications, there are any elimination that may be required, or do we have to intervene with the physicians. Above and beyond that, we have a lot of families, they only speak Spanish in the neighborhood, And so we run nutrition classes for them with a pharmacist and a translator to educate them about diabetes, hypertension, and just proper nutrition. They don't have access to proper nutrition, so just bringing that awareness helps them to stay healthy. We also do health fairs, and the health fairs, it's not just a health fair for a pharmacy where we do brown bag analysis and talk to them about DME products, but more like it's a community event. So we have audiovisual screenings, we have dental care screenings, we have chiropractors over there, we have nutritionists, we have Zumba classes for the community. They come and do some exercise. And as a pharmacist, we are involved in helping them with trying to find out aids for daily living as to what that needs. The last but not least, last year was a completely different year for us. And the first responders came to us and said, hey, we need to protect the city, and we are out of hand sanitizers and masks and gowns and gloves. And we, as a compounding pharmacy, we had the access given to us by FDA to compound hand sanitizers. And we made a bunch of those and gave it to all the all the first responders at no charge, including gowns and masks. Masks was a hot commodity last year, and nobody had it. And we had thousands of masks in stock since we stopped doing sterile compounding. We could have used them in non-sterile, but instead we decided to donate them to the city so they can help the community to stay safe.
Okay, thank you. Are you also involved in any educational efforts aimed at healthcare professionals?
Yes, I speak at multiple events. Mostly I do both pharmacists and physicians. On the pharmacist side, I do talk to students at the University of USC as well as Western U. I teach the students both a compounding course as well as entrepreneurships and running an independent compounding setting pharmacy. Students nowadays are a little bit discouraged with the pharmacy profession because they think that pharmacy profession is not moving in the right direction. It's my job to advocate the continuity of the need of pharmacists in the state of California, and not just a pharmacist for a license, but a well-functioning pharmacist who understands the current needs of a patient and moves in the next phase of pharmaceutical care. We all understand that doctors do compounding as well. They have been making medications forever. Even though those people number of doctors that do compounding have decreased over the years, we quickly realized that could pose a danger to the public. So for the last, I would say, 10, 11 years, since 2009, I believe so, we've been doing education seminars to train doctors that if you do want to engage in the compounding practice to make certain medications for your patients because of timing issues, ease of care, or whatever that reasons are, then we want to make sure that they do things correctly. And I've been speaking about those nationally as well as internationally, and making sure they do things correctly. So that has been my involvement for long periods of time.
Okay, thank you.
Petrozelka, excuse me for interrupting.
Yes, Your Honor.
I know that board members have questions, as does Ms. Jarvis, and I'm only interrupting because a lot of this material, I'm sure, is part of your packet. So could you summarize it? Well, not summarize it, but wrap it up in the next 5-10 minutes so we can move.
Yes, Your Honor. I have only a couple of more questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Patel, did the probation have any adverse impact on your ability to serve your patients at the Central Drugs?
As I said earlier, my biggest concern was my local patients in the city of La Habra that had relied on pharmacy since 1954. Due to the probation, we were not able to service those patients, as majority of the patients are on the state Medicaid program, which is run by Med Impact PBM. And as soon as the probation came in, my Med Impact contract was canceled until the probation. So all my patients in my neighborhood, I was unable to serve them. Most of them don't even have cars to drive to a different pharmacy. and they've been relying on us for generations to come to a pharmacy, and we've been servicing them. And last year was even more difficult because though all those patients were in a lockdown and they couldn't even get the medication delivered to them either. So anyway, so this has been a major impact for me, not able to serve my community.
Okay. Are you licensed in another state or states?
Yes, we are licensed in 30 states at this point.
Okay. Have any of those states imposed any restrictions on your licenses?
Yes, I think over 1/3 of the states that we are licensed to have either put us on probation or have taken administrative action against us.
Okay. So, lastly, why do you believe that the board should grant your petition? You're asking the board to terminate your probation after 2 years. The original term of probation was for 5 years. Why should the board even entertain this petition?
Thanks, Ivan. I really appreciate that. Again, I want to urge the board that by all means, I want to make sure that you understand that my actions from the past are not what happens today. I've taken corrective action plans. I've done all the things correctly, not just since 2018, but since 2015 when we first discovered what the deficiencies were. I believe that we have taken steps to correct those. We have put systems in place to make sure that it doesn't repeat again. And for the past 6 years since we have taken those actions, we have numerous board visits, including our consultants that have checked up on us on a quarterly basis to make sure that we stayed in compliance. And by all means, what we want to strive for is we want to be the example. We want to lead the profession with an example, not just in regulatory compliance, but also in patient safety. We want to be the poster pharmacy in California to be the one pharmacy that makes sure that we have gone above and beyond what their basic requirements are to be in a community setting.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jarvis?
Well, quite honestly, Your Honor, Mr. Petrozelka covered all of the questions that I had, so I will just pass that right on through to the board.
All right. I'll begin with you, Mr. President Lippy.
I have just one question. Do you intend to seek a license again for sterile compounding?
I don't intend to seek a license at that location at all.
Okay, but you do at others then.
I don't do currently sterile compounding at any location.
Right, but are you planning to?
Not at this time.
I was just wondering why you had gone through all this extensive correction when you don't plan to do it, but I guess you explained it by saying that for the non-sterile compounding. So
yes.
We're good. Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Judge, I think you are muted.
Okay, excuse me. Other board members, I'd like to just chime in actually and identify yourself.
Judge, this is Debbie Veal. I have a couple questions.
Please.
Dr. Patel, so Ms. Jarvis brought up that your company had prior issues and actually paid a pretty significant fine. Can you explain, was it timing? Can you explain why, even though you had these other issues, acting as a manufacturer, acting as a wholesaler, and then some issues with prescriptions, I would have thought that would have caused you to really look at your operation.
I'm sorry, Debbie, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Would you mind repeating the question one more time?
Yeah, no, I'll put my phone here, so hopefully, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Jarvis mentioned that you had prior issues, acting as a manufacturer, acting as a wholesaler, and issues with prescriptions, and even paid a pretty significant fine. I was just curious, because that happened in the past, why perhaps you didn't take a better look at your whole company and find yourself in the situation that you did.
Thank you, Dr. Wheel. I appreciate that part. Yes, we did take an action because of that as well. When this citation came in 2009, I believe, which was about 11, 12 years ago, and it went out for quite some time before the fines were rendered to us. But even before that, we had a full team of FDA consultants helping us to get into compliance before 2015 happened. So we had 3 FDA consultants helping us, making sure that our processes and procedures were in place to assure that we were making quality products. And so we did take corrective actions immediately after that as well to make sure. We have not been shy from making capital expenses to ensure safety of medications being prepared, as well as for our customers.
So even with those consultants, you still had the problems that you're on probation for today.
Keep in mind, 2013 was when the DQSA law was passed by President Obama. And as soon as that happened, we had the consultants on board since that time. And even with the consultants, as you can understand, the sterile compounding has evolved over the last 7 or 8 years. And even today, that we are still learning on what things we can do to improve upon ourselves. We were so much focused on making sure that we have quality raw materials to begin with, that we lost focus on the end product testing. The theory has always been that if you start with the good raw materials to begin with, and if you have good processes in place, the end product is going to be okay. But we only test for end products. We're not guaranteeing that every single product is going to be good forever. So we focus on the previous first, and we lost sight on the end product testing, and that was the biggest mistake we made.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. There's also mention that one of the issues was you had non-licensed folks, non-licensed techs working, compounding these medications, and it sounded like quite a bit of it, and training not happening or observing training while you've been president this whole time. Once again, I'm just curious how that kind of slipped through the cracks.
Absolutely. And we had, at that point, 90 plus employees working with us at that time. Today, currently, we only have less than 35 people left in the company, but at that time, we had 90 plus people working. And we had an HR manager making sure that licensings were okay. But once they passed the licensing gate and making sure they were okay to work as a pharmacist, as a technician, our job was to train this person completely. So in the sterile lab, we had probably close to 18 people working in the lab at that time, I believe, and everybody's involved with every single thing. The number of mLs that were mentioned in the accusation is probably the total amount that this person had involvement with. Could be mixing, could be just stirring, could be filling. But regardless, I believe that training procedures were there to make sure that before anybody compounds any medication, they went through certification of not just gowning, but media fills as well, to make sure they were able to make sterile medications for us. That doesn't mean anything if the person was not licensed. And that was something that we learned very hard, that you cannot train somebody that is not licensed to a point where they're able to make medications. You have to have a licensed person first, and then train him until they make all the medications for us.
So it was just a mistake. It was just kind of this one person was this kind of an aberration? Everybody else was in line.
It was a one person. She was a licensed pharmacist in another country. She did have a PTCB, and my HR manager did not even realize that in California they have to have a license issued by the Board of Pharmacy. And for me, it was an oversight because I was out there trying to build the first 503B facility in the state of California, and I was engaged in that as well to ramp up my sterile production, sterile compounding, and it fell through the crack for one person.
Okay. You mentioned that you're also doing some training at one of the schools of pharmacy on compounding. Do you
Yes.
teach both sterile and non-sterile?
Yes, I do. In fact, I at the USC, I train the students for the national competition. So every year when they go to NCPA for national competition for compounding, I train them to go for the competition.
And have you talked to them at all about your experience here and what happened, your personal experience with the board and having gone on probation, and maybe some words of wisdom to them?
Absolutely. I am not shy of telling my mistakes because we can all learn from our mistakes. If somebody tells me I don't make any mistakes, they haven't learned anything yet. And I know that part. I make mistakes every single day, but I'm ready to learn and to make corrections immediately. I'm not shy about that. And USC knows about the Western U knows about this thing and if you look at a letter of recommendation, I got from them itself. So that way they know that I'm not hiding anything. And the best person that can teach this class is the one that have made mistakes and have learned from there.
Okay, I have one last question. There was two people that we contacted who wrote letters of recommendation for you.
Uh-huh.
And two of them said author does not have personal knowledge of the disciplinary penalty. It was Mario Jimenez and Martin Torres.
Okay.
I would, normally you give the people know what's going on. I mean, was it just not clicking when we called, or why do you think they said that they weren't aware?
Absolutely. So Dr. Jimenez teaches the class at Western University. He had the copy of the probation. I did give it to him for him to write the letter for us because I didn't want to be going to Western U for teaching a class and not letting them know that I'm on probation. That would be not fair to the university. And so I did mention to him. I'm not sure why he said that. Maybe he didn't know exactly what the exact he could not remember what the exact conditions were of exact terms for probation probably. Dr. Martin Torres, similarly, he was trying to get me on the boards of CSHP last year, and we've been talking for a while, including Dr. Lauren DiMartini. They all came to my facility to observe what I do in sterile compounding, and they wanted me to be an advocate on how we can revamp sterile compounding in the state of California. So we did provide him all the documentation, but again, I'm assuming that he didn't have it in front of me. Plus, it was over a year ago, so I'm assuming that he probably forgot what the exact terms were.
Okay.
Again, I believe.
Dr. Patel, thank you for your testimony here and you being so forthright with with what happened and how you've approached it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bill. Any other questions by board members?
Hi, this is Song. I have a couple questions for Mr. Patel. So, could you just remind us again how many pharmacies you own, or is this a pharmacy? Are you part of an owner of this
Yes.
business?
So Central Drugs have two locations. The one in La Habra is a flagship location, and that's where we have the majority of the people. We have another location in Fullerton, which is a satellite location, and we have 5 employees over there, 6 employees at this point, I believe. But La Habra is my main location. That's where I'm usually all the time.
And what percentage of your business is compounding currently, would you say?
I would say my compounding business is probably close to 80%, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we do grant your probation to be terminated, would you still continue to test the batch monthly as you're currently doing?
That is setting up SOPs, and once it's in SOPs, the only thing they'll do is train the people, and it just keeps on happening. We've been doing that for a while. It's just that we didn't have a program set up to make sure that we capture every single information. And it's a great thing for my physicians because they expect me to do the testing all the time because they want to make sure that their patients are getting the right medication. So it's just part of a cost structure, and it's already been embedded in our pricing schedule. So absolutely, there's no way around not doing testing.
And one last question. You said that the PBM MedImpact just canceled your contract. Can you just explain us when they did that, did they give you any assistance on how to handle patients that you were serving, or what was the situation like? Did they give you any assistance on how to take care of patients who relied on you to take care of their prescriptions? What happened?
We urged them, we wrote a letter to them, and we told them that this is a retail part of my business. This is the community that I've been serving them for years, for generations. I have third generation people coming to me. And so we wrote them a letter. I read a letter through my attorney's office and said, hey, these people need us to be in this community to serve them. And there is only one other independent pharmacy remaining that doesn't even do the type of business that we do. And so we urge them to do so, but they give us 30 days notice, and they were asked to have the patient choose another pharmacy because since we have a lot of pharmacy within the city, within the 5-mile radius, they should be able to choose another pharmacy. They didn't recognize that the people that were there didn't have cars to drive in.
Okay, thank you for your testimony and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Great. I have a comment. Judge?
Please.
I have a comment, Judge Liu.
Yes.
Song kind of asked my question, but I'd like to know clarification. If you granted the reinstatement, will you be continue doing a sterile compounding?
No, we don't.
Okay, and on I know that on the PBM, a lot of people on probation, when they lose the PBM contract, they pretty much go out of business. And how you manage to survive that?
So our majority of the business has been the compounding side, but I do not want to lose touch of my community base because that gives me fulfillment to help the people in the city. We have been a cornerstone of this community in the city of La Habra, and we are called the pharmacy in La Habra, and we want to make sure we serve every resident in the city. This year has been difficult because a lot of people came us for COVID vaccines, and of course we could not build the PBM, so we were giving away for free to these people. And while we were doing so, they would love to use a pharmacy for the medications, but we cannot provide them. I said, it's so convenient, so close. All my staff is bilingual. It'll be so much easier for them to take the medications correctly and understand. They go to some of the pharmacies that they don't have bilingual staff, or they don't have time to even explain to them about the medication. And so we have provided services over the years, so they would like to use us as much as possible.
Yeah. I just want the rest of the board member understand. When we put somebody on probation, if it's justified to give a probation, then we should do so. But if not something related to public safety or consumer protection, I think we should take a little more seriously on those probation because it does impact greatly on the licensee and the business and their survival. So I just want to make sure the board understand that. Thank you.
Judge, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
This is Maria Serpa. Dr. Patel, a follow-up question to your employees and their licensure status. What is your current process now to validate licensure on hire and ongoing? And then I have a follow-up.
Absolutely. So we have a compliance officer. She's a pharmacist. We have PIC in charge. So they are involved when we do hire them on the hiring process. There's a checklist. The checklist requires for them to print a current license from the Board of Pharmacy website that attaches to the employee files that goes with them. Above and beyond that, I believe they check quarterly all licenses in the pharmacy for everybody.
So my question really is about ongoing, because sometimes licensees are late in submitting the renewal, and they may not have an active license for a day, 2 days, a week. How do you capture that? You monitor the expiration date and then assure that they have a license the day after their expiration?
Yes, and in the past, we did have happen where the license have lapsed for maybe a day or two, and they are literally excused from their work for that couple of days while they get the license active. So they are calling the Board of Pharmacy themselves and making sure that they're getting licensed. Once it gets on the Board of Pharmacy website, they're ready to come to work again.
So you do have a process for assuring that even if there is a lapse, that the person is not providing compounding or prescription functions.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Other board members?
No further questions.
All right. Hearing none, I'd like to give each party a brief opportunity to sum up. I'll start with you, Mr. Excuse me. I'll go by memory first. Selka.
Thank you, Your Honor. Honorable members of the board, we again thank you for your patience and thank you for your time in listening to our presentation. In summary, we have a petitioner who has been practicing pharmacy for over 2 decades with no issues related to quality of his products. Nevertheless, he made some serious mistakes in his professional career, and for that, he suffered the consequences. That at this point of time, I believe that the person who stands before you today is a humble man who had learned from his mistakes and who made some pretty significant efforts to improve his practices, excuse me, and to ensure public safety. At this point of time, we believe that Mr. Patel had clearly and unequivocally provided evidence of his rehabilitation, his commitment to the pharmacy profession, and his commitment to serving his community. We also believe that at this point of time, the risk that may be associated with removal of his conditions of probation to the public is negligible, if any, and therefore we believe that termination of his probation and the probation for Central Drugs Pharmacy is consistent with the public interest, and we respectfully ask you that you approve these petitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Shaka. And finally, Ms. Jarvis, any final words?
Yes, Your Honor. At this point, sorry, one moment. Thank you. At this point, petitioner's probation monitor has stated that petitioner has been very cooperative throughout his probationary period. And as previously stated, probationer is 100% in compliance with his probation. Therefore, I have no recommendation and I will submit the matter to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This matter has been submitted. The board will take it under consideration later this afternoon in closed session. We are off the record. President Lippy, did the board wish to take a short break, or do you wish to proceed with the next hearing?
I would like to proceed because we have to do a break at 11:45 We will probably lose quorum at that time, so we'll be taking a lunch break at 11:45 to 12:30. So we could go ahead. If we have to break in the middle, then we're going to have to break in the middle and come back. The other thing I wanted to mention, Judge Lou, going forward, if you would like me, when it comes time for board questions, it might be good for me to take a roll call and ask each one if they want to ask a question as opposed to just throwing it out there. It's up to you, but
That's an excellent suggestion. We will do so.
okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Greg.
Yes.
This is Ricardo Sanchez. I've decided not to travel to my office for the break that I was going to have. So the time frame thing, it's not an issue anymore. I'm going to stay put where I'm at, and I'll be able to continue with a quorum. We'll be able to continue it. So
Well,
you don't have to worry about.
We do have another person that has to go out from 12 to 12:30.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
Okay.
we can go on to 12 and see what happens.
Yeah, that's fine.
At
But
any rate, I think we should not take a break at this time.
yeah, no problem. I just wanted to let you know that
Thank
the
you.
time issue is no longer an issue.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we can go to the next case.
Thank you. Ms. Moderator, can we then have Ms. Dinam El Sayed available?
This is the moderator. She has been promoted.
Ms. Sayed, are you available to appear by way of video? I don't see you yet.
It's uploading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see. Hold on. I have to adjust my camera. Sorry about that. Okay, how is it now? Okay, how about that?
Looks okay to me.
Is it good? Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me make sure I don't have that black line on top. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
very good. Let's go on the record. And this time we are hearing a petition for early termination of probation. The petition is being brought before the Board of Pharmacy. It has the board's case number 5795 and the Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2021-050631. We have a quorum present for the Board of Pharmacy. My name is Jonathan Liu. I'm here to assist the board. I'm with the Office of Administrative Hearings. At this time, we have had, Ms. Said, you've had opportunity to hear the first board hearing. Is that correct? You were present?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you do understand the process that we're going through.
Yes, Your Honor.
Present and representing the Department of Justice is Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. I'm going to ask Ms. Jarvis to provide us with a summary of this case, and then we'll proceed from there. Ms. Jarvis?
Thank you, Your Honor. And again, good morning. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. This matter arose through the filing of an accusation, which proceeded to an administrative hearing in May of 2017. It ultimately resulted in a decision after rejection of proposed decision, which became effective on January 29th, 2018. There was a typographical error in the memorandum to the board, but January 29th, 2018 is the correct date. Petitioner was ordered at that time to serve 4 years of probation with certain specified terms and conditions. The underlying facts are that from approximately 2012 to 2014, petitioner was working at a Costco pharmacy. On or about March 23rd, 2014, petitioner verified an order for hydrocodone acetaminophen 10-325. The order was checked after petitioner's verification and was found to be missing 3 tablets.
Excuse me for a minute. We're getting some noise. If anybody isn't speaking, if they could mute their microphones, it would help, because we're starting to get a lot of feedback. Thank you. Sorry, Christina, go ahead.
That's okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the order was checked after petitioner verified this order and was found to be missing 3 tablets. From the video security system, it was clear that petitioner had pocketed the tablets. Petitioner finally admitted to taking all 3, consuming 1, and flushing the other 2 down a toilet. In March 2015, petitioner also admitted that she had stolen Vicodin from her husband's prescriptions on multiple occasions and had stolen hydrocodone from Costco on 1 other occasion. Petitioner stated that she became addicted to hydrocodone in 2006 or 2007. However, based on Costco's video surveillance, it was apparent that petitioner had stolen hydrocodone on multiple occasions, more than the 2 that she admitted to. Petitioner has been 100% compliant with probation, and the requisite time has passed to allow her to petition for early termination of probation. In fact, if my math is correct, I believe that petitioner's probation will be terminated in January of 2022, just by the natural progress of time. In addition, petitioner enrolled in the Maximus Pharmacist Recovery Program, or PRP, immediately after being terminated from Costco due to her theft of these drugs. Petitioner also attended a 60-day inpatient treatment program, and while petitioner had been working at Kaiser as well as Costco, Kaiser also terminated her employment upon learning of her theft from Costco. And petitioner took those rehabilitative steps even prior to being placed on probation and prior to the investigation and accusation being filed in this matter. In her petition packet, petitioner provided documentation that she successfully completed PRP and was discharged on April 2nd of 2020. She also provided an employee evaluation from April of 2020, showing that her rating was the highest level, excellent, in 12 out of 13 of the categories. Petitioner submitted CE certificates totaling 61.75 hours from October 2018 through May of 2020. And then petitioner submitted 11 letters of recommendation, 8 of which were able to be verified by board staff. For all of the letters verified, the writers stated that they did know of the accusation and petitioner's addiction, as well as petitioner's activities since the discipline was imposed. Several people added to board staff that they believe petitioner deserves to have her termination of probation granted because she has done a lot of hard work and is in a solid recovery. Additionally, letter writers made statements such as that petitioner is honest about her faults and her recovery, is remorseful, works hard, and is dependable, accurate, tenacious, generous, reliable, and inspiring. Finally, petitioner supervisor states that petitioner has exemplary professionalism, honesty, and integrity, and her work is far above average. Exhibit 1 consists of the petition packet, including all of the documents described above, as well as the underlying decision and order, the notice of hearing, a consent to electronic recording, and the memorandum to the board. At this time, I would like that to be marked as Exhibit 1 collectively and move to admit.
Exhibit 1 is marked and received into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can I move to, received. You did not ask for objection. Thank you. So then, therefore, at this time, it is now petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jarvis, and good morning to you, Ms. Syed. I assumed you would not have any objection.
Oh, no, not at all.
I want you to take a deep breath and just take your time, and keep in mind, of course, that the board does have your petition and has had opportunity to read it, but feel free to highlight, to add anything that may not be in the petition, and to update us on your progress, after which point we'll have the board members ask you questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did write a brief statement, if you allow me to present it to you.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dina El Sayed. I have been a pharmacist for 31 years, of which 7 years and 2 months of those 31 have been spent in recovery. I want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to present this brief statement. On March 23, 2014, I diverted narcotics while working as a relief pharmacist. 5 weeks later, on May 1, 2014, I self-reported to the Pharmacist Recovery Program, or Maximus, and began my monitoring program. I attended 60 days of rehabilitation at a professional treatment center in Santa Monica, California. 3.5 years later, on May 19, 2017, the board filed its accusation. My probation with the board began 2.5 years later on January 29, 2018. After 6 years with Maximus, I completed the pharmacy recovery program on April 2nd, 2020. From March 2014 to this day, I have experienced many life-changing events. However, the only constant change that I kept focused on is my recovery. I have embraced my recovery without hesitation and reservation, and it simply became part of who I am. My commitment to better myself has been both personal and professional, for it allows me to be a nurturing mother and a trustworthy pharmacist. This commitment will continue past my probation terms and past my career, as my life depends on it in immeasurable ways. I still partake in 12 Steps Recovery Program as I have developed a strong network of support within it. I have met some of the most amazing individuals in my support group to whom I owe my thanks for what I have become today. I am fortunate enough to work at a long-term care pharmacy during my probation. My current employer afforded me a second chance to prove my worth as a pharmacist, whereas many found my condition as a liability, and for that I am eternally grateful. This month, I celebrated 5 years of service, and I'm looking forward to many years to come. I presented to you 11 letters of recommendation from individuals of different backgrounds, yet they all share one thing in common: my true story. It's before and it's after. I have accepted the responsibility of my actions. I recognize the mistake I made and sought immediate remedy whenever I was afforded the opportunity. I'm still in full compliance with all my probationary terms, as I have followed all the requirements stated in my stipulated settlement, and most importantly, I have taken active steps to demonstrate true remediation and genuine desire to maintain utmost compliance. Finally, I want to reiterate my understanding that the purpose of this proceeding and the mission of the board is to protect the public. I hope I display to all of you present here today my full transparency and my unfeigned vulnerability, which demonstrate that after 7 years and 2 months of continuous and successful monitoring, I am able once again to gain the trust of the board and its members. I thank you all for your attention and consideration.
Thank you very much. I'm going to invite Ms. Jarvis to ask you questions at this time.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it Miss El Sayed or Dr. El Sayed?
Dr. El Sayed is fine.
Okay, thank you. Dr. El Sayed, in your letter to the board with your petition, you stated, and I quote, "I pilfered 3 narco tablets." Why did you use the word pilfered instead of stole?
That's a very good question. When I attended my recovery program in Santa Monica, I used to use the word stole, but the clinical administrator taught me to say the word pilfer, and that's what I have been using since then. I mean, technically I did steal them, but we use the word pilfered to maybe make it more manageable to the ear, I suppose.
Now, in this same letter, you also did not admit to any other thefts from Costco. Do you deny the other thefts that were alleged against you?
No, no, I do not.
And then you also did not mention taking your husband's prescription. And I understand he is now your ex-husband. Is that correct?
Yes, he is. And yes, I did take his prescriptions as well.
And his prescription was for Vicodin, but the pills that you stole were for Norco. Did you have a preference, or are they similar enough that it didn't matter to you?
They're quite similar, actually, in composition.
So it didn't matter to you?
No, no, it didn't.
Did you ever have a valid prescription for either Norco or Vicodin for yourself?
Yes, I did. I did before.
Before what?
Before I became addicted to the substance.
Okay, so back in like 2006 or
Yes.
2007?
Mm-hmm.
After that date, and in particular, around the time of your thefts from Costco, did you have a valid prescription?
No, I didn't. However, I did have a valid prescription in April after the incident, because I was having extensive dental work and my dentist gave me the prescription, but I did not use it because I knew I'm going to be monitored by the board eventually. So I did have just one time in April after that March incident, but I did not consume it.
And then what have you replaced? What have you done in your life to replace the addiction that you have or have?
Well, you, from what I have learned in recovery, you do not replace the addiction. You try to understand it and understand its origin, how it came about, and why I chose to have a substance abuse issue. So now that I have a full understanding of how my mind works, I replace the substance with more of self-care, of asking for help, of human connection, instead of self-isolating and trying to think that I have to do it all on my own. Now I can feel more willing to reach out and have support from the outside.
So looking at the time frame, you stated that you became addicted in 2006 or 7.
Mhm.
You didn't start working for Costco until approximately 2012.
Mhm.
Am I reading between the lines too much, or is it accurate to say that from that 2006-7 until you were able to begin accessing Costco's store, you were taking the drugs from your husband?
Well, yeah, you're right about that. The thing that I have experienced when I was going through my substance abuse issue, you do not become addicted right away. It's not an upward curve. It just goes slowly, and then through time, you realize that you you have a habit. You really need the substance. So I don't believe addictions happens overnight or over a month. It's a slow process.
And so I guess the point of my question is, we know that you took drugs from your husband and from Costco. Did you get them anywhere else?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
So we know that you took drugs from your husband and from Costco. Did
Mhm.
you access any drugs anywhere else? Like you had worked
No,
at Kaiser, but my understanding was you didn't have access to controlled substances there. Did you purchase them illegally, anything like that?
no. I honestly, I don't even know how people can purchase them on the street. I've heard of it being sold, but I have never. No, no.
And then you stated to, I believe, the Costco investigators that you had taken one of these 3 tablets that you stole and then flushed the other 2 down the toilet.
Correct.
Why would you do that?
You know, okay. So that day, I had a feeling something is going to happen. I really had a feeling that I'm going to be found out, and I did not want to walk out with the medication in my pocket. And I really flushed them down the toilet. I don't know, I cannot explain it to you why I chose not to walk out with these 2 pills.
Do you have any estimation of how many pills you took from Costco?
No, I really don't. I worked with them like maybe a couple of hours per day. I wasn't a full-time employee there. So I don't really recall, but I do remember when I had my hearing for the probation hearing with the with my attorney. I think the inspector, I do recall her mentioning how many times she saw on the camera. I do not remember the number, but it might be in your report with the inspector who investigated the case.
Well, and the reason that I asked that is, did you ever repay Costco for any of these medications? Did they ever ask you to provide you with a dollar amount? Were you ever required to do that?
No, ma'am, no.
I have no other questions.
President Lippy, I'd be pleased
Yeah.
if you would take the lead in board questions.
Absolutely. When you did have a valid prescription prior to becoming addicted, what was the reason you had the prescription?
I have a lot of dental work. A couple of times I had surgeries, so they were valid. And I do recall seeing a cures report ran on my record from Kaiser, where I used to work, and they also ran cures report on all of my family member. I never altered the prescription or wrote a prescription to myself. Every prescription that I had was valid.
Okay, and I understand you're still attending AA meetings, is that correct?
Yes, now I'm still doing it on Zoom every once in a while.
So it's not a regular basis, it's every once in a while.
Yes.
And your sobriety date is when?
March 23rd, 2014.
Okay. And another question, what will this early termination do for you at this point? I mean, your probation is set to expire in probably 6 or 7 months, or maybe 8. What will the early termination do that you can't do without it?
Well, for once, this is more like a personal thing. I haven't seen my family back home since 2009. My mother passed away in 2018, and I wasn't able to attend her funeral because of Maximus overseas travel. So that was very difficult to grieve her on my own here. I'd like to be able to visit and be with my family, my sisters and my brothers. So that would be, if I have to do something that I'm not able to do, that would be it. And then the other thing, I have been testing for almost 7 years and 3 months. Every day I have to check in to see if I have to test. And I do understand it's part of my probation requirement, but it would be kind of a relief not to have to wake up one day and say, oh, I have to check in to see if I have to test. And not to mention, I haven't left where I live for 7 years, except one time to send my daughter to college, because I'm afraid if I have to test, I have to find a testing location, and that makes me super nervous.
Understood.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. I'm going to take a roll call to ask others. I'll start with Debbie Veal. Do you have questions?
Thank you, Greg. I do have a couple. First off, congratulations on your sobriety. It's great. It sounds like you've been sober about the same number of years that you actually had a problem. It sounds like you had a problem for about 7 years and you've been sober about 7 years. So, congratulations. It sounds like your addiction was not debilitating, because it sounds like it was kind of like a pill here and there, not like massive quantities.
You're absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, one of the I had to meet with a psychiatrist who was an addiction specialist as well. And I had to do like a 12-page survey to decide whether you have an addiction, what kind of mental issues you have, or if I am psychotic, because they need to figure out what category to put me in. So basically, I was classified as having a substance abuse issue. That doesn't lessen the effect of my inappropriate action. But you're absolutely right. My addiction was not a continuous habit. It was more like here and there, whenever I was able to have access to it. Some days, and I would like to make a point. You're right. I have been sober almost the same amount of time as I have been addicted to the substance. But during the 7 years of addiction, I have tried numerous times to not to being sober. I've tried it for 9 months, 8 months, but when you're trying to do something without knowing what that thing is, it's not going to be successful. I did not know why I was doing what I was doing. I did not know how to go about it. So when I realized that with education, support, I can beat my condition, I think that's how I was able to become where I am right now.
Did you practice pharmacy under the influence of Vicodin or Norco?
I believe, yes, I had one. Yes, I have. Yeah.
So when you were stealing, it sounded like that the one particular day they're talking about you actually consumed while you were working.
Mm-hmm.
Was that kind of your normal processes? You would feel the need, you're at work, you would consume the medication while you were at work, or would you put it in your pocket and take it home?
Well, I think I had the need more to consume it before I got home. But that day, I believe I consumed it about the time I was ready to go home. So, yeah, when I'm at work, I am a happy person. But like, I had my issues were when I needed to come home.
So your triggers were at home?
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounds like maybe your trigger is gone.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you found yourself in that kind of with those kind of triggers again, what would you do?
Well, that's a very good question. Actually, we discussed it in my support group. As I mentioned in my letter, I have developed wonderful friendship with some amazing people who had the same disease as I do. I have a very good friend of mine. I told her, if I ever have the thought or the idea, you will be the first to get a text or a call from me. So far, thank God, it's been good. And I have to say this, and I don't know how you might perceive it. I've been working for 5 years right now, and every time I come across checking a narcotic, regardless of what it is, I always ask myself, what were you thinking? Honestly, sometimes I wonder where my mind was when I did what I did, but then I realized I wasn't in the healthiest state of mind. So I think I feel more prepared for future Dina than I was in the past. So if there are any situation that will trigger a condition of using, I already have a plan in effect.
And when you're testing, they're testing you not only for narcotics, but they're also testing you for alcohol. Is that true?
Yes, I think, well, the testing chain of custody, I think we always have to test under option 1, and I believe option 1 is a 10 panel test, so they cover everything.
And so once testing would stop, do you feel like perhaps you could have a glass of wine every now and then?
I have to say drinking is not allowed in my religion, but I did try to drink, and it did not give me any, it didn't work with me. It made me very emotional. So drinking is not for me.
Okay, once again, thank you very much for your honesty, transparency, and for being sober.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Maria Serpa, do you have any questions?
Just one comment for Dr. El Sayed. Thank you for your forthrightness and congratulations. No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Song O, do you have questions?
Just have a few questions. First, I just wanted to confirm and congratulations on your sobriety. I just wanted to confirm that when the Costco incident happened, you checked into the Maximus voluntarily, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you just describe your current work settings? And if, we were to grant your petition, how do you feel about working surrounded by narcotics in your daily work?
Okay, so I currently work at the long-term care pharmacy, and I am surrounded by narcotics 8 hours a day. As I'm not so sure if you're aware of the fact that a lot of these patients are on medication, and some of them are post-surgery, so we dispense a lot of pain medication. So as far as being around the substance, I have been around it for 5 years. So I do not have a problem with it whatsoever. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes I stare at the prescription and I ask myself, what was I thinking? So this is my current state of mind right now.
Great. And finally, we see that it was officially documented 3 pills was stolen at Costco. And I do see that you were taking from your husband's. How many in your recollection? I know it's a while ago and a long time ago, and I'm sorry to bring it back up, but how many do you think that you took it from your husband's prescriptions?
I do not remember. I
Okay.
really cannot put a number on it.
That's all right. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your testimony.
Oh, you're welcome.
Jig Patel, do you have questions?
I just want to congratulate Dina for her sobriety and for her honest and genuine testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Albert Wong, do you have questions?
My question you already asked earlier, Greg,
Okay.
but I do have a comment.
Yes.
Number one, thank you for coming, Dina, to share your experience to us. And as I understand now, you are working on in a long-term care with a lot of patients on narcotic. From your experience, how can you prevent from those long-term care patients being addicted?
The long-term care patient being addicted?
Yes.
Oh, well, what I have noticed, there are patients' names that run through my head. They get the same prescription over and over, so I can tell if I see this name, this patient's name, that patient's going to get this prescription. But most of the provider now, they are limiting the number of pills that they allow the patient to use, as well as they state must last for 30 days or must last for 20 days. So the pharmacy, it's not like we're playing the cows, but we also monitor on our side. If we get a prescription, we make sure that we do not dispense it without the proper stated limited amount of days to be used by the patient.
Yeah, good. I like to thank you for coming, and also I was thankful that you expressed that how hard that is for you to, having tests every day. I mean, so I just want the rest of the board people know that if we put somebody on probation, make sure it's justifiable. Put them on probation, because all this testing I think costs money and time and anxiety to the licensee. Thank you.
That's very true. Thank you I appreciate your comment. That's very true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricardo Sanchez, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I think that's the end of questions, Judge Liu.
Thank you, President Lippy. At this time, I'm going to invite the parties, if there is no other evidence, to make a closing statement. Let's begin with you, Dr. Al-Sayed.
I know it, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I know it might sound kind of silly that my probation is going to end in January, and so why I'm petitioning for probation. I petitioned almost a year ago. Unfortunately, due to timing, my hearing fell closer to my termination date. But for me, it would be nice to feel that I did something for me as far as finishing the probation before. Like, I feel like I have succeeded more than the board expected me to do if I finish it earlier. But other than that, I have nothing to add. And I hope the statement that I made was sufficient enough for you to understand my story, how it was then and how it is right now.
Thank you very much. And finally, Ms. Jarvis, did you wish to add anything?
Yes, Your Honor. Petitioner's probation monitor states that petitioner is a very good candidate for early termination of probation, and I find no reason to deny the early termination. And other than that, I will submit to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. This matter is submitted, and we are now off the record.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
So,
We will now take a break for lunch and come back at 12:30 if that's okay with everybody. Does that
sounds
work?
good.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
12:30, right, for Craig?
Yes, 12:30.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.